Acknowledge, over. Air Force One, come in. Oh my God.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 action film Air Force One Down. The film is directed by James Bamford and it stars Catherine McNamara, Ian Bohen and Anthony Michael Hall. Now the film focuses on Catherine McNamara's character who plays Agent Alison Miles. And her uncle, played by Anthony Michael Hall, Sam Waltman, is like the head of the Secret Service agents who are supposed to be looking after the president. And he basically asks her to come on board on his team. And her first assignment really is aboard Air Force One. And this is just at the time when the president, played by Ian Bohen, has just completed like a controversial energy deal with like this troubled country. Now this then sets a plan in motion by somebody from that country who is a bit of a revolutionarist. He's not going to stand for this trade deal. He thinks it weakens his country massively. So he plans to take over Air Force One and force the president to change his deal. However, they don't plan on Catherine McNamara's agent Alison Miles being on board, who makes it her mission to protect the president at all costs. Right, what are my thoughts on Air Force One Down? Well, obviously, immediate comparisons are going to be made between this film and the Harrison Ford film from the 90s, Air Force One. Of course it is, and you can understand that. There are many, many similarities here. The film isn't really subtle in that regard. I wasn't actually sure if this was one of those, straight to streaming stroke DVD sequels to to bigger films that have been out at the cinema, but I don't think it is, and where I've looked and stuff, there's nothing to suggest that this is. It's just a very similar idea. Do I think this film is good? Well, I think this film is watchable, is what I would say. I think there are there's an awful lot really that you could pick apart in this film, but I think it's obviously got reasonable budget for it, for what it is. It does manage to kind of hold your attention in regards to immersion and all this kind of stuff, and surprisingly, and I don't know much about Catherine McNamara, she plays quite an interesting character and quite a competent action lead in this film, if I'm being honest. She handles herself very, very well in the fight scenes. They seem very well choreographed to me, and easily the best part of this film is those moments. And the film does something quite smart as well. At the midway point, it kind of, and this is the hint in the title really, Air Force One Down, I suppose. Maybe that's the hint. The action leaves Air Force One. And they end up being on the ground and then hunted by, this group of revolutionists. How and why they're hunted on the ground by them is anybody's interpretation, that they just happen to kind of escape Air Force One just as they're flying over this country in particular, sort of thing. So this is what I mean. This is definitely one of those films that if you pull on a thread, it all falls to pieces. And sometimes, if a film is consistently bad throughout, I'm kind of happy to do that. And I don't think that this film could be described as being consistently bad. There are eye-rolling moments in this film. Some of the dialogue is pretty awful here and there. But do any of us really watch these kind of movies for the dialogue? No. They do make a decent attempt to kind of flesh characters out here. At the start of the film, she's not a fan of this president. He's kind of seen as somebody that's been handed everything to him. So he's not particularly popular, and he's even less popular after this kind of energy deal that is put together. So she kind of, throughout the film, her character's on a bit of an arc in the sense of, her thoughts and feelings towards this president. And This version of the American president, let's be honest, how many have we seen over the years? You know, he's actually pretty hands-on. You know, he gets involved with some of the fight scenes here and there. He's not just sitting back in the shadows, and you know, he himself is given a reasonably interesting arc. Some of the fight scenes on the ground again are done very well. Some of the action scenes and the shooting scenes, they're done well, and there's decent explosions, all that kind of stuff. There's content here to keep your attention and keep your interest, and it's constantly kind of trying to remind you to don't think about the plot and the dialogue too often, if you like. It goes a little bit Rambo by the end, and it starts to lose you, if you like, in regards to holding your attention and, you know, stretching your limits of believability. But it, you know, it kind of is what it is, and there's kind of, it's one of those films as well where you know, oh, there's a leak in the White House. Who can it be? Oh. Look who's coming right at the end of the film. It's one of them you're just like, oh, please. You could so see what's coming here and there on this film. So, is this worth picking up? Well, if you're looking for a pretty well-made action film with some well put together choreographed action scenes with a reasonably interesting villain, even if he's certainly no Gary Oldman in the 90s version, but Catherine McNamara's no Harrison Ford either. But I'll be honest, sometimes you put a film on it and you kind of wonder what kind of film you're going to get, and I expected this film to be horrifically bad to a large degree. And I'm not going to lie, it surprised me a little bit. The budget of the film surprised me a little bit. The action scenes surprised me a little bit. And I thought it was competently made for the most part, with some, watchable characters. Does it elevate itself, to a good film? No, probably not. I'd be lying if I said it was, but I also would be lying if I said I wasn't reasonably entertained watching it at the same time. So take of that what you will. Thanks very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget, I will be back on the channel, plenty more reviews and content very, very soon.